IVM.
Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. What would you be doing today had it not been for your day-to-day responsibilities of meeting work deadlines and making sure your family is financially secured? Would you have been a footballer, kicking the ball around on those grassy grounds? Or would you have been an artist, sitting near a window overlooking the hills as you paint away? Maybe you crave to be a photographer. But here you are, framing a picture of the life you wish you had. But this can still be a reality. करो पूरे अपने इरादे, अपनों से किए सभी वादे. SBI Life अपने लिए, अपनों के लिए. To know more about our insurance plans with wealth creation, log on to www.sbilife.co.in. IRDAI registration number 111.
When we chart the story of the creator and influencer space, it's always good to look at the stories of people who've been riding the wave from its inception. The journey of Malini Agarwal, or Miss Malini as she's popularly called, is one such story. And she's our guest this week to not just dig into her story from her early days as an online blogger to her recent acquisition by the Good Glamm group and the creation of the Good Creator Co., but to also understand how the celebrity, creator and publisher worlds are converging. I'm Varun Duggirala, and this Advertising is Dead, right back with Malini.
Remember the days when our granny used to narrate once upon a time stories? Let's bring back the good old days of moral stories with Storytime Tamil. Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran, host of Storytime Tamil podcast. I would like you to entertain and educate your children with stories from Storytime Tamil. Tune in to the new episode sharp at 7 p.m. every day on IVM website, IVM podcast app, YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. We're talking to Malini. Malini, I'm happy you're doing this. It's been an exciting time watching what's happening with you.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, very exciting times. I think everyone has been in a whirlwind online trying to find, and navigate the best ways to collaborate and sort of grow their businesses. And I'm super, super happy that despite a pandemic, we've reached a point where personality-led brands are really being appreciated today, finally.
Yeah, that's a great point to start off with. And I'm going to want to track this from the time Miss Malini as an online entity kind of kicked off, because I remember back in the day, I remember that we briefly worked together in the same organization before you started off Miss Malini, which is what was Channel V. It doesn't exist anymore. And from then to now, if you had to kind of take a broad view and think, how has this space evolved as the journey of Miss Malini has also evolved? How have you seen this entire ecosystem change and evolve?
I mean, it's changed so much from the time I started in 2008. I think it was almost like a blank canvas, right? Because when I started, I don't know of any other blogs that were there at that time, especially, the concept of creator, influencer. I don't even think the name or the word had been coined. Looking back, definitely Miss Malini falls into that category. So it's changed a lot in the sense that earlier on, it was a lot more, I guess, hobby blogs. People, especially in entertainment or, in advertising, didn't really think of this as a place for marketing. Social media marketing didn't exist. Influencer marketing didn't exist. So all of this is very, very new. So when you talk about evolution, it's not just evolution. It's just, it's actual creation. It's sort of the big bang happened, and over time, things have developed. And, just like you see so much evolution when it comes to when you're building new cities or you're creating new industries, that's what's happened for us. So I think it's been super exciting to see where it's gone from 0 to 100 so fast. And I'm very, very happy to see that, Gen Z and, the next generation has adopted this landscape so well. I was reading about this somewhere about how we are the 80s and 90s or 70s born kids were the last generation who, lived offline and online simultaneously. And, we had the, telephone, we didn't have cell phones. we were the first ones to use like Alta Vista or ICQ, and now are straddling both. And now you have, of course, the millennials, which is the second part of that, and then Gen Z, and now Gen Alpha that are reaching the age of 10, 11, who are also coming online and becoming creators. So it's been a massive evolution, and I think it's too big to just say, here are the changes I've seen. There's so much that's happened.
There's one thing which you just said, which I think is a great point to kind of look into, right? Is that when bloggers in many ways were the original creators, and we were almost like bridging the gap between what was a publisher and what was an individual kind of creating something and kind of scaling from there. Today you're hearing about brands wanting to act like publishers, creators are publishers in their own right. So it's almost this I put it as there are creators, there are publishers, and there are brands. And in many ways, those are kind of coming together. Now, when you're seeing that entire piece kind of coming together, what are you seeing as almost the roles each of them play, or is it almost a massive overlap where everybody's kind of doing what everybody else is doing?
I mean, I think it's different strokes for different folks. I mean, because there are creators in so many different industries, they will overlap in certain ways. So yeah, sure, an entertainment creator, a blogger like me who started off as a blogger and now is doing entertainment journalism definitely crosses over with what you would have originally thought of print journalism and magazines. But I don't think that's exactly true for every other creator. Sure, fashion and beauty to some degree, but while fashion had more dedicated magazines, beauty didn't really have as such a dedicated magazine. Maybe it was part and parcel of what fashion magazines would offer. And then if you think about what's happening with brands, when we began, I remember, Mike Melly, one of my co-founders, would literally be beating down doors of brands explaining how, it is so important to have a digital presence and how you can show impact, you can see exactly who your audience is, how much impact, what impressions you had, and even see how many sales were generated from that. And that was initially something that nobody really understood, because it takes time. At that point, it was all about billboards and television advertising. And today, how many people are really investing in a billboard? I'm sure it is there, but if you look at what's happened with OTT, does it, it makes much more sense to have a digital strategy and go to where people are living so many hours of their day, as opposed to hoping to catch them while they're flipping channels.
And then kind of taking from that to what I would consider the most exciting news in recent times is the fact that, the formation of the Good Creator Co. And, and this entire piece of, there is content and there is content which is catering to entertainment, catering to, influencers and creators. And now there is actual commerce and product kind of plugged into that ecosystem. How do you see the alignment? How do you see, how did this kind of like progress? But more importantly, what was the thing that you guys thought that, okay, this makes sense, this is a way to kind of go towards the future, and how did that kind of and what's the vision for the future?
I mean, great question. I think for us, what was very clear is the Good Creator Co. is going to be the largest ecosystem for creators. I mean, it makes so much sense to have some guidance and some alignment and some strategy towards it. We were kind of all flailing in our directions, making our own path, and that makes sense. And that was right for that time. But now, if you're thinking of creators and how much industry, there's $1 billion industry and how much money they're generating and 46 million creators out there, but how much is, education being offered to them as opposed to someone sending them a DM offering them 2,000 followers or 10,000 followers, and that's probably a scam. So I think, it's very important to continue to keep the creator ecosystem democratic. That was the whole beauty of, being a creator. You just needed a cell phone and you could start becoming a creator. It didn't cost you anything aside from, your time and, maybe the cell phone at that time. And now, of course, creators invest more in their technology. But I think what we really want to do with the Good Creator Co. is help creators who are even micro creators, nano creators, maybe 1,000 followers, fulfill their dreams. And what do they need help with? They need to get that guidance to get their numbers up to a certain layer. And they also need to be connected with brands who may not need a creator with 1 million followers, who is very happy doing a nano project or a micro project with creators who have 5,000-10,000 followers. And what's the great thing about, the Good Creator Co app is that you can actually go figure out how much you should be charging. That's the number one problem creators have. How much should I be charging for my post? How do I get in touch with the brands? And how do the brands find the creators that fit their profile. They will be able to find creators that will do the content in the language they need. They will find them in the regions they need. So it's really about organizing this whole system and creating that society around it. And I think for me, over the years, what I've realized for creators, which is why you hear so much about creator mental health, is it can be a very lonely journey.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to now give creators that feeling of camaraderie, create a campus, which is why we're also going to be launching a campus, give them a creator house where they can spend time together and really allow them to have all the tools that they need. Just like if you think about it, what was there for our generation where suddenly everybody became a stylist or a fashion designer? They had NIFT. Now they have Pearl Academy. Where do you go to learn if you want to become a creator? So we want to, give everyone their fair shot and fair chance. And I think it's very exciting.
You make an interesting point about, let's say, micro and nano creators, right? And I think that's often when you hear a lot of the news, while this comes up in, let's say, articles and stuff like that, there's never enough there to say, okay, since the creator economy is growing, but we have so many creators who aren't able to monetize today, right? I mean, don't have, either they're too niche or they don't have the numbers. And like you said, when you look at that category and people are creating, the biggest question is, A, how do I get discovered? B, how do I monetize? And in many ways, I think those are the two cornerstones to actually make this into an economy rather than just the creator space. So when looking at that, how do you see what you built with I like to call it the Miss Malini universe or ecosystem. I don't know which one you prefer.
Empire, yes.
Is Empire. How does the Empire plug into this kind of give them tools and what they could do with it?
I mean, I think what's really interesting is that the Miss Malini journey has been so, it's been such a wonderful experience and not one that I predicted, right? I started off as someone who was an RJ or someone who worked in digital content and then slowly became a content creator, influencer, because I wanted to create a digital identity who was like a cartoon version of me, which was Miss Malini. And I never really thought about it this way. And which is why I think the secret sauce to Miss Malini has been, it didn't start off trying to make money. It really started off as an authentic connection. And I think over the years, we have, of course, built a really strong foothold in entertainment as someone who has really focused on positive content. And, a lot of gossip is out there and that may have its place and its audience, but we've always focused on very healthy, uplifting, positive perspectives on Bollywood, which is kind of rare. And I think what's really interesting is that Miss Malini has also evolved. So we launched something called Miss Malini Trending, which is our news desk about influencers. So just like we covered Bollywood and do features, we are now doing features about, trending stars. And the big dream and the big goal for all these creators has always been to have their face next to Shah Rukh Khan, right, in the creative world. And they definitely deserve it. The amount of work they put in, the talent they have, and the audience speaks for itself. So I think Miss Malini is really going to heavily focus on giving these creators their, chance in the sun. Andy Warhol said in the future, everyone's going to be famous for 15 minutes. Maybe it's 15 seconds on Instagram today, but I think you must give credit where it's due. And I'm very happy to do that because for me also personally, it's also about giving back. This whole journey in the creator world has made my life absolutely extraordinary. I cannot complain. I used to wonder, who am I? I'm not a Bollywood star. I'm not, a Kim Kardashian. I'm not I don't really know where I fit in. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute. It's amazing because I'm carving my own path. And that's what I tell so many young creators today. Don't worry if there isn't a creator like you already. That's actually amazing. You have to find the gap. Miss Malini's gap was this unique, real girl voice about entertainment from her perspective and what goes on behind the velvet rope, as opposed to just here are pictures of what celebrity came with who and what's the gossip. And I think that if you can create a space for yourself, now there are amazingly so many doctors who are becoming social media creators, and it's amazing because they are creating inspiring and informative content, and they're creators too. So don't hold back. Don't feel like you don't fit in, because that's the number one problem people have when they are creators online. We all suffer from a lot of insecurity. So I have to tell you, be very proud of your uniqueness.
You mentioned that all creators, the dream is to be next to Shah Rukh Khan, right? I think the other side has been interesting to see how that's evolved as well. Like you seeing celebrities start behaving a lot more like creators. Like you're suddenly seeing them all create reels the way a creator would. You're seeing them look at content. It's no longer just, I just post a few photographs and I'm done with it. Right? I remember in the even like 3-4 years ago, you would have a celebrity put an image out and the caption would be in third person, not necessarily even them saying it, but somebody from their team has written it from that context. So how have you seen celebrity evolve into this mix? Because I feel interestingly, while there's nano and there's micro, there's obviously the larger creators. Celebrities have kind of merged into the larger creator category in many ways. So how are you seeing that part kind of plug into this system, especially with the fact that I guess a lot of them are now using this as their primary channel to build an audience?
Yeah, I think there were two reasons why celebrities probably stayed away from this world. I mean, the whole thing used to be about celebrity allure, and you don't see, like, how much did you know about Madhuri Dixit's life back in the day when she was making all her films? And it was partly not, for any other reason, is that, people were very invasive. The press was very invasive. And, people didn't really talk about what their life was like in their kitchen or at home without their makeup on. And there was a lot of concern that what are content creators doing? Is it cringy content? Do I want to be associated with that? The same fear that Bollywood stars would have about, hey, if I do television, then that means my Bollywood career is over. But nowadays, everyone's on OTT. So that fear has now gone away. And that understanding that, hey, people love you. Maybe they love you even more if you show them your real side, in a sense. You see Katrina Kaif sweeping at home or how to wash your dishes. It's cute. And nobody has a problem with that. And no one judges that because it feels very relatable and real. So absolutely, I think big Bollywood stars have, joined the ecosystem. And that's one of the things that we also do. Ignite Edge, which is Talent Co., which is part of our ecosystem, which manages creators who have millions of followers, who are Bollywood stars. And we call them talent as opposed to creators, because talent sort of encompasses a whole range of that. And absolutely, they are now online. They have understood the value of having social media presences. They are making money through brand deals. And it's totally the evolution, as they did branded ads on television or were on a billboard. Today, if the reality is online and it is on social media, then it makes perfect sense for them to join this virtual reality. And look at us, we're sitting and having this conversation online. It earlier would have been very odd, even though we could have very conveniently always done our interviews like this. We never did. We met face to face. We hired 3 cameras. We hired lights. People had to travel a long distance. You couldn't meet someone who's in another city. We could always have done this. I mean, for many years before the pandemic hit. So, but this works. You get the same conversation. Maybe initially you feel like, oh, it's not the same. But yes, over time, you realize that you get the work done. Obviously, meeting in person has its own charm, the same way that flipping through a magazine has its own charm, as opposed to, reading a book has its own charm, as opposed to reading it on a Kindle. But I think there's pros and cons to both.
I think you make a valid point about access, right? I feel that access is really opened up the more you kind of use this. I host 3 podcasts, and I think I can only do it because I'm sitting at home and doing it. If I had to go to a studio or go meet a guest, there's no way I would be able to do even more than one. Kind of looking at that access as well, I think what's also been interesting when I look at the journey of the empire, as you called it, and I'm going to keep using that, is that you over time build different verticals. There's obviously the talent vertical you just spoke about. There is the trending vertical that focus on the entire influencer space. If you had to break down each of the verticals that are under, I'm going to keep seeing the empire. How would you differentiate what their focuses are, but how do they kind of come together as well as an overall piece?
Sure. So the reason I say empire is because I'm a big Star Wars fan. So it's kind of
my daughter's name is Leia, so I take full props on that one.
Amazing. So I would say the empire is divided into many categories. Obviously, there's the content engine, which has always been kind of the soul, the blog, the social media. We've always been platform agnostic. Then we sort of branched out and obviously started doing influencer marketing. So we created our own in-house ad agency called Agent M Creative, AMC. Then we obviously have Ignite Edge, which is now going to be Good Talent Co. because it fits in the larger umbrella where we manage our influencers and our own talent. We have Girl Tribe, which is a community for women, because I felt obviously that we need a space, a safe space, a kinder space for women to connect on and actually live their best lives online and use the internet as it should be. And of course, now we are part of, part of the Good Creator Co., which is part of the larger, Good Glamm group. And this is where we have partnered with Plixo and Winkle and Viduli to create really the mega empire of creators and that ecosystem. And that's where we're going to now have even more. So you're going to have the GCC app, you're going to have the academy, you're going to have all these other legs to it as well. So the way that it all comes together is that at the heart of it, it is creating content or helping amplify content and being able to do, whether it's brand deals or help creators find the brands that they need to be with. We're almost like a matchmaker. We're the Sima auntie of content, right? So we find the creator and we help them find the brand deal and the brand to find the creator and make that perfect match to make sure that everybody's happy. And I think that that's kind of been our goal. And at the end of the day, giving back to this community, making sure it's a safer, healthier experience. So we launched Ignore No More online, which was a big campaign that we're still running to help, create awareness about cyber, abuse and a lot of sexual harassment that happens online today. I mean, at the end of the day, we are now living in a virtual society. Yeah. This is our reality, and we have to treat it just like we would the real world. And let's not make the same mistake that we did offline, where we always said, okay, ignore the Eve teaser, ignore that. Now we don't. If someone comes up and drops his pants in front of us on the street, he would go straight to jail. So he's sending you dick pics online. The same thing should happen.
Yeah, I totally agree on that front. And I just want to pick on that piece and go a little deeper, but also talk about Girl Tribe, because I feel, especially when you and I believe in the fact that women make better leaders or better CEOs than men do. We're great with singular tasks. I'm generalizing here, but I'm a strong believer in that fact, and not because I need to say it, because I truly believe that. But I want to kind of dig into Girl Tribe and kind of understand more about what it's been doing in recent times. And on the abuse part as well, I totally agree. I think it's time these things are called out, and also they're done at a broader level and not just like individually. You can kind of, this is what you can do. But I think that's a good way to kind of go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what I'm excited about with Ignore No More is that I'm now going to be on a council that can actually apply to suggest governance and change in online governance. And I'm very excited to say, can we suggest this? And of course, it takes a long time, but you have to start somewhere. And for us, I think Girl Tribe has been a combination of saying, I don't feel that you only need to focus on women's issues as being, rape and sexual assault and, the glass ceiling. No, there are other things that women are interested in, whether it's luxury or travel or food or their own businesses and whatever it is, and their mental health and relationships. And we spend so much time focusing on, how hard it is and how difficult it is. And let's focus on this and what all the guys are doing wrong. I think the mistake we're making is that we're really generalizing and we're putting women into a box, that these are the only things they care about and the only things they want to talk about, which is not true. And I think that that's what it was. Girl Tribe is a safe space for all women to come together of various age groups and have a good time. And sometimes talk about serious things, sometimes talk about your physical health, sometimes your mental health, or on Wednesdays, we go and have a ladies' night and go dancing. I think one of the big mistakes a lot of people make is that they generalize that women after a certain age have made a decision to live less. And the way I, try to explain this better is that I'm 44, and in my mind, I'm not any older. Sure, you feel the aches and pains of being older, but I don't feel like, okay, I need to switch my brain off and be less excited about things or less interested in things. But society as a whole starts to cut me out of experiences. And I think that's a mistake. And right now, everyone is selling to the younger audience, 16 to 25, 16 to 25. But how about the women who are 30 and 50 who have spending power? I spend more money on my skincare today than I ever did. I never even used to buy sunblock. I buy clothes that are more expensive today. I have that financial security and disposable income. And yes, sure, there are kids out there who are spending their parents' money who are younger, but the vast majority of women who are socially independent are going to be able to spend money later. So it really still, it mystifies me why women get written off. It might be the whole old society, Saas Bahu, that, okay, now get married, sit at home, take care of your kids. So that is also a piece of the Girl Tribe. But we have members who are 16. We have members, my mom is 83 and she's a member. So I think it's about, at the end of the day, if I were to ask you as a man, do you feel that you start getting written off at a certain age? Probably not as much.
Not really.
Really? You don't really think about it that much. Yeah. And, people don't come up to you and say, okay, how are you going to decide are you going to have kids or continue working? Nobody ever asks a guy that question. They only ask women. And I think that we are tired of having that conversation. So we have created a space where nobody asks this question.
No, and beautiful part about what you just said is the fact that it's not about everything that's only serious or only which feels like a cause, but really about all the stuff that you should be able to do no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day and saying I'm almost turning 40, and I want to talk about the fact that I have a skincare regime, and they're like, why would you talk about that? You're not like in your 20s and you're a guy. I'm like, I do it. Why can't I talk about it? So I agree. I think it's time to kind of move away from saying what you can and shouldn't talk about, and should you go out there and also I think we don't give fun enough importance, and I feel fun is such an important part of what our personal space is. I have a bunch more questions to ask you, but I know we need to go for a quick break, so we're going to do that and be right back with Advertising is Dead.
Don't you think that if everyone around you is getting smart, you better be smarter? Hey there, I'm the traveling professor Siddharth Deshmukh, and I'm back with season 2 of my podcast to make you smarter. Smarter with Sid. What's this season's focus about? Well, it's about 10-minute nuggets that will make you stand out at work. It's time to go from smart to smarter. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday and become smarter with Sid.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. We still talk to Malini. I think I'm going to going back to what we spoke about right before we went for a break, right? And I feel that that's also in many ways tags back to the kind of content which you spoke about initially, which is projecting positive content out there. And positive content honestly kind of connects with not just career or the serious stuff, but also about what you consider fun, what you consider your own personal space and things like that. So as you see all of this coming together, how do you see content evolving? Do you see content evolving more towards this? Are you seeing more people gravitating towards, okay, this is the kind of content I want to create, this is the kind of content I want to consume? Are you seeing it moving in that direction? And if not, then how do we move it in that direction, rather, is my question.
See, like I said, there's so much content out there, and I can't say as a whole or in a general way that all content is moving one way. Definitely through things like the pandemic or big things that have an impact, you see a change. Also because, yes, celebrities weren't going out. There was no fashion shows to go to. There was no movies being filmed. So as a result, the content was different. People were talking about self-care. It was great to see that every content creator jumped in and tried to help, spread news about where you could get oxygen tanks and which hospitals had hospital beds. And you wouldn't think that would be something they talk about. But I think where content is going to is it's becoming more organized. One, because anyone who is a content creator looking to make it a career understands that they have to follow now something that is going to help their algorithm work well. They know that they have to be consistent. That these are the number one things: content, consistency, and building community. And building community means that when you put out content, and the analogy I like to give is, okay, you're a content creator. Imagine this is the same equivalent in the real world, right? You create content. You wouldn't go to someone's house, put up pictures of yourself and leave without talking to anyone, because that would not mean anything. That would be a poster people rip off the wall and never engage with. Here, if people are writing to you, the biggest, most valuable asset you have is the communication, the two-way conversation. There was a time people sat in front of their TV and yelled at the contestants of Big Boss who never heard them. Yeah. Now they can interact with them, they can have conversations, they can support some, and they can create the fan clubs. So I think it's opened up that whole two-way street. So aside from where content is gravitating, I think it's communication. I think community is gravitating to a whole new direction. And people are understanding that even if it's a micro or a nano community, it makes a big difference. Some of these luxury influencers don't have millions of followers, but they have an audience that really cares about their content and will probably buy the 15 lakh car, as opposed to advertising to millions of people who will not ever buy that car.
I want to take a bit of a segue here and also ask you, when you're looking at the creator economy as it's scaling right now, what do you see the career opportunities being for someone? Let's say I'm someone who's starting off right now, I'm right out of college, I'm midway maybe through my career and trying to figure out what shift I want to make. What do you feel are opportunities today that maybe didn't even exist 3 years ago, as you're kind of moving to towards the future, which is this hybrid of largely digital, but also enough analog as well? And what kind of skill sets should one have if they want to kind of fit into those roles?
I mean, the first thing is acknowledgement and the fact that this is being recognized as a very valuable career option, viable also. Like now people, parents who might have thought, what are you doing online? My mom used to think I'm playing games online all the time. And at that time, maybe like my first year, I didn't make a penny. It was a lot of barters because that concept wasn't there. But I think now when even parents or children are seeing that this is a very viable job. When I was growing up, when I finished college, my dream was to be a VJ. That was the cool career of choice. I came to Bombay wanting to be a VJ. I, became an RJ. I did a lot of, emceeing things, but that was my dream. I never imagined that I would join a new digital revolution that would be so different. And now today I can go back and say, okay, I've done a bunch of my own TV shows and what a full circle it's come. So for students today, they are thinking, okay, how do I become a creator? They're not thinking, how do I learn? What do I study? And maybe that wasn't something that people think about, just like people don't think about how to behave online. People don't really think that they need an education before they come online. And I'm not saying you 100% do. Maybe some people are creators who just need to be themselves online. But there are definite skill sets that will help you a lot. Even things like how do you negotiate a deal? How do you find the right brands so you don't make a mistake and identify yourself? How do you do your right PR? How do you deal with a situation when you're getting flamed for something you accidentally said or made a mistake? These are all things that you need to learn. And maybe they're not traditional classes that you take, but it's time to learn these skills because it's getting much harder. The landscape is so saturated now. There's so many people doing this that it's probably harder than it was back in the day when I began, to be very honest, because there was less people there. There was less competition there. There was less understanding also of what's going on, but there was more room. You had more flex room. You had time to breathe. And it's interesting because the pandemic made everyone pause, and everyone was able to pause because everyone else paused. Because otherwise you can't pause because you're like, I'm going to be left behind.
Yeah.
So I think the big thing that's going to happen today, and that's what we're doing with Good Creator Co., is giving people the education, the tools, the apps, now everything that you need to help you become a creator from the beginning. Because the hardest thing, and ask anyone today, is like, okay, I have 1,000 followers. It's not growing. What do I do? How do I become a better creator? And that frustration, that anxiety is overwhelming. And just like for anyone else, if they are like, okay, I wanted to break into Bollywood, or I wanted to become a fashion designer, I guarantee everyone has gone through that phase of how do I do it? Like, what do I have to do to become that ace creator?
I actually want to ask you about people beyond the creators as well. And I feel that's an important one as well. If I'm someone today saying, okay, I'm interested in this space, I might not necessarily want to create content, but I feel that I see an opportunity to build a career within this. What do you see as opportunities there? Just in terms of what kind of jobs someone can take up, what kind of careers people can have. What do you see in terms of that space?
I'm so glad you brought it up, because the same thing, in fact, at the academy that we're doing courses on how to do video editing or become a photographer or how to do social media managers. Everybody asks me, can you help me find someone to run my social media? And obviously I tell them, first, give it your own voice, run it yourself, and then maybe get some help on that. So I think that that's important, and that's the great skill. I used to always tell people when I was an RJ, not everyone should go try to become an RJ. You might have other skills. You could become a producer and a programming head, so many other skills. There are so many things and so many pieces that need to come together for this to work. Even from my team, I have makeup and hair and managers and all of these things that are so key. So yes, absolutely, there are huge opportunities. And today you can tell your parents that, hey, I'm going to become a social media manager, and there is a legitimate job out there for you. But the mistake I don't want people to make is don't go out there saying, okay, I know how to do it, and then not doing a good job at it because you didn't do your homework. You didn't learn the analytics. You just said, okay, I know how to post things. And it's important that we offer the right skill set and don't promise everyone that, okay, you've done this course, now you're going to become the best social media manager. Aptitude is also a big thing. Anything else you study, you have to pass the course. You have to do even the aptitude test sometimes, whether in the US you do the SATs or whatever you do, to say, does this person have this kind of mental aptitude for something? So it is literally, it's coming back to an academy, a campus. It's a full, it's a full education system. It's edtech.
Towards the end of every episode, I ask my guests a series of questions. They have nothing to do with what we've spoken about so far, but I always find these to be the most fun part. Also kind of gives people a lens about the people. what do you spend a lot of time doing beyond what you can consider your day job that gets you excited, gets you out of bed? So, okay, this is something I'm going to do. It's not what I do at work. So what is what is that or those things for you?
Honestly, I watch a lot of, I guess, OTT shows at present, and I really enjoy that. And I'm trying to get back into reading, and I actually play a lot of online games on my phone randomly. I enjoy that a lot.
Anything you watched, listened to, or read recently that you recommend?
So I'm rereading Wuthering Heights. I was doing this whole
nice
book exchange, and someone sent it to me, and I'm so happy to reread it again. And I just put up a post actually asking for recommendations. I'm watching such great shows. On Voot, I'm watching one called Yellow Jackets, which is kind of like Lost, if you guys like Lost. I'm watching Inventing Anna, which is huge right now. Everybody's watching that.
Yeah.
And if you love things like Downton Abbey, there's a show called The Gilded Age, which is superb, which you also have to watch. So I kind of simultaneously watch like 5 or 6 shows, especially when each episode is not dropping at the same time. Yeah. So it's fun. We've become so greedy now. We can't wait a week for the episode.
Yeah. I recently binged Reacher, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It was like good old school classic, one of those. It's very close to the novel, so which is why I enjoyed it. Next question is actually a question I've asked almost every single guest who's ever come on this show, which is, what can you put together in an instant?
What can I put together in an instant?
Yeah.
A puzzle. I'm very good at puzzles.
I've never got that response. We're hitting about 170 episodes now. Nobody's ever said this. So that's an interesting one.
What's the most common answer?
Maggie.
Maggie has been Sadly, I'm pretty bad, so I probably would take a lot longer than 2 minutes to make Maggie.
Yeah, I don't know why that was. The best ones have actually been like what you said. It's the puzzle which goes both ways. It goes on one end. It goes into something physical, but also it's something it kind of talks
like
about a mental state.
Word puzzles, things like that as well.
Yeah, and my last question, which is generally a spin on the name of the show, is why do you think the creator economy will not die?
Because there is a huge audience for it. We are hungry to consume, and we are hungry to be famous. And both of these things are feeding each other, and they're two big monsters that are feeding each other. Let's work on making them good monsters, happy monsters, instead of the scary ones.
Thanks a ton, Malini. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm happy we finally got to do this, and thanks for coming on Advertising Instead.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
You too. If you like this podcast and you want to listen to more podcasts like this, head over to the IVM Podcast website or app, or wherever you get your podcast from, and look at all the podcasts that IVM makes. There's some really fun stuff there.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by Pooja Chabria and Pooja Dhingra to talk about LinkedIn's Creator Accelerator Program, a new initiative designed to support creators on LinkedIn through coaching, recognition, and resources. We have a brand new show on the network this week, Mind the Gender Gap. In the first episode, we talk about what keeps Indian women from joining the workforce. On Cider Says, Cyrus is joined by Rahel Padamsi and Vandana Saxena Poria to discuss a book by Alik Padamsi called Let Me Hijack Your Mind. They talk about what the book is and how Vandana got involved with the finishing of the book. On the Habit Coach podcast, Ashton is joined by Loveleen Sirohi, co-founder at India Hemp Organics. They discuss what hemp is and how it's beneficial to our body and much more. On Tere Mere Raaste, Keshav takes us on a beautiful journey to the mountains from Leh to Manali. On All Things Policy, the hosts talk about the rising tension between Russia and Ukraine and how technology is becoming a frontier of the conflict. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show or any of our shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Word of mouth really does help us. And also, please, a rating if you could. That is also extremely helpful to us. And remember, we're also on YouTube. You can check out ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to get a list of the different channels that we operate on YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, Bank of Baroda, India Water Portal, and Max Life Insurance.
Do you find yourself making routines and timetables but never actually being able to stick to them? Do you find yourself downloading productivity apps only to uninstall them in a few weeks? In that case, you've reached the right place. Hi, my name is Ashtin Doctor and I host the Habit Coach podcast, a podcast that helps you get all of this in order, set better routines and make better habits. And now, we're coming up in a Kannada adaptation as well. Make sure to check it out every Monday and Thursday on the IVM Podcast Network